Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ninja 25 YouTube channel. My name is Brandon, and I'm here with film scholar uh, Katy Burrell. She's got a pretty awesome blog at catherineburrell.com. And today we're talking about Disney's Cruella, just dropped on Disney Plus with premiere access and in theaters. Um,
Mhm.
I watched it on Disney Plus. You went to the theater, didn't you, Katy?
I did, yes. I went
What
to a 7:25 Saturday night showing.
was it busy?
Yeah. It was a little odd. I was telling you off screen that
Right, right, right.
it was very weird to be back in the movie theater. And I had some weird experiences that I just wasn't ready for. One of them being that the people that came to sit behind me, one of them like whacked me with her bag, like her keys
That's
and
awkward.
everything. She was like, "I'm so sorry." And I was like, hmm. And then, like, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes later, they up and left. Like, totally. And I was like, what is going on?
Like
Other
they
than
didn't
that, it was full.
they didn't want to be there in general, it seems.
Yes.
Yeah. So my wife and I watched on Disney Plus last weekend.
Mhm.
What did you start with? Kind of general thoughts. What did you think of the movie?
So I went in totally blind, which was, I think, really good for me because I had a little bit of preconditioning just from a podcast that I watched it where they had said they had to endure watching it. And I was like, well, I don't know. I mean, it's Emma Stone. Like, she's really good. And Emma Thompson's really good. So, I mean, they were the only two that I knew were in it.
Okay.
So I didn't go in with a whole lot and I wasn't thinking totally about that one comment I had heard. And so I was really pleasantly surprised. Is it a Disney live action reimagining movie? Yeah. But I went and
It
saw
is
it.
not the Cruella in the animated movie.
No,
That's
and
that's
in
for
in
sure. Yeah.
fact, I actually don't know that film very well because it scared me when I was a child.
I haven't seen it in years,
So
and that was
yeah,
I had intended to watch it sometime this week as a refresh. After it would have been after watching Cruella, and it didn't happen. It was a busy week, but
right. But here's the thing: I went and saw this movie, and I actually wanted to see this movie. I was going to see it whether we were going to talk about it or not,
right.
and I did not go see The Lion King live action. So I think that's saying enough already.
That yeah. They range from good to terrible to literally the same movie again. Um, and the Lion King is exactly the same movie that you saw the first time. It's I don't know if you've seen it
I did not.
since.
I mean, I literally have never seen it
Yeah, yeah. So
ever.
it's you
Lion
except you
King,
have because you've seen the animated one.
right?
The
So I went and saw Cruella, which I think is already a good indication, and I was pleasantly surprised. Was I completely enamored? No. There were some things about it that I was like, yeah, it doesn't really work for me. And I was also quite unfairly emotionally manipulated in this film.
the
I
dogs.
mean, I mean to get really sad and dramatic, but I had to put my dog down a few months ago.
Oh,
So,
we lost one about 2 years ago now. It's terrible. I'm so sorry.
yeah, it is literally the worst thing. And this dog was my ESA, and he was my everything. And mm. Anyway, so her dog, I think his name is Buddy, looks enough like my own dog that I immediately kind of started crying. And I was like, am I going to make it through this movie? And I did. And then later there's a scene about um, the house burning down, and
And the
that
dogs
has
are in there.
its own triggers for me. So I was like, like, you know, like I was invested in this in a way that I didn't expect to be.
Right.
And in some ways, I think so. I also saw Quiet Place Part Two and Conjuring this week. And somehow this film was the one, Cruella was the one that got me
That
the
really got
most.
to you. That's
Like, it was
funny.
the
Yeah, yeah.
most embedded in reality. And
I want to call out first of all MVP Winky, the little one-eyed Chihuahua. He's amazing.
yes, yes, yes.
But no, yeah, the
So good.
I would say pleasantly surprised is a fair way to put it. The
Yeah.
the production design in this movie is stunning. It's absolutely stunning, top to
Oh
bottom.
my God,
And then
yes.
the Emmas,
Mhm.
yeah, Emma Stone, Emma Thompson, they are both fabulous.
Yeah.
They are both incredible.
And I
The
think that we really need to applaud Emma Thompson for her performance in this. Emma Stone, yeah, like there's expectations. We know she's good. But Emma Thompson's character in this was very oddly written, I thought. That was where
I'd
some of
agree.
my
Early on in the movie, I was getting like Devil Wears Prada, Miranda Priestley vibes, but it
exactly
didn't
too. I
it
literally
didn't
thought of it.
yeah,
She
yeah,
had
but
that one thing where she was like, take this or that. There was some line or movement or something that was, it had to be a call
right.
to Meryl Streep. Like it had to be. Um, the character itself was just very oddly written. The motives were kind of all over the place. And not to say that that's not in line with the character. I just don't think maybe the concept of narcissism was handled very well.
I there
Yeah.
are okay. Since
Yeah.
you kind of already got there early, so I'll bring it up. There
Okay.
are one of the things that I think doesn't really work, and it's because mental health is a very important topic to me, and it's
Yes, me too.
the conceit of this movie is Cruella's crazy because her mother's crazy, and that's
Mhm.
a really problematic way to look at things. Um,
Yeah, I
and I
didn't
would
know if I was being too like reading too much into that or not, but I definitely picked up on that too. And I thought that um calling the Duchess, right? A
the
narcissist,
Baroness.
Baroness, thank you. I thought um pinning her behavior initially, at least on narcissism, was a little bit of a cop out. I thought it made the character less interesting, especially when they try to not make that so much of a thing with her later on. So, like I said, that character was just kind of written all over the place and not in a way that supports the characterization, right?
I that's fair.
Okay.
I would I can't knock any choice that Emma Thompson made because I love her to death.
Right.
I think the problems are in the writing, not with performance. And she
Exactly.
made it work for me, but
That's exactly where I was going with
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I
You
think
know,
that
she's just
she
she's
took
a
what
Disney
she,
villain.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but Emma Thompson is just, I think it's so funny because she did the live action Beating the Beast too.
Hmm.
She was Mrs. Potts.
Yeah.
So she kind of has like two very different things going on. But she is so good that I didn't even think about that when I was watching this live action remake. And I thought that Emma Thompson took the writing that she had, invested in it, and made it as believable and entertaining as it could be. I don't think any of the character problems have anything to do with her performance. I think she saved that character.
I would agree with that, and it's I don't want to say this. I mean, yeah, it's just the what I would probably say is the biggest issue with them is like, is it just it rubbed me a little wrong because like there isn't a lot of reason given for why Cruella is like she is. Like, and she's and I the reason I say that this isn't the character we've seen in the other movies is like, okay, she has a little bit of a reason to hate Dalmatians, but it's just like she
Right.
I don't I don't believe based on this movie that she would grow up to a woman obsessed with fur coats. Like she wouldn't want to kill like she had Buddy and Horace had Winky, and it's just like they're she's had pets
Yeah.
around her whole life, and they didn't show me the turn. So there's already whispers of them making another one, and maybe that's where that'll come. But there isn't. Assuming that movie doesn't happen, it's just a very different take on Cruella Deville. Um,
I don't, yes, it is very different. And it is very much for the time now.
yes.
So
And
that
even
said, I
though
don't
like
think
it's set in the 70s? When's the movie?
it's the 60s.
60s? Oh yeah, yeah. So it's a movie in the 60s trying to appeal to modern young people. Um,
Yeah.
so it's on at times it works, and at times I think it's a little confused. But
Yeah. I think it works in the like humanitarian aspect of it, especially with the dogs. You know, when they introduced that she was like a dog owner
yeah,
and
and
lover.
Horace and Jasper are with her from like a very young age. They're
Yeah.
they're not just hired thugs. They're like brothers
Yeah.
basically. And also Paul Walter
But
Hauser
I
is.
actually totally forgot about that aspect. I thought they were just like two guys they wrote into the movie.
I mean,
That
well,
is
yeah,
how
that's kind of how it is, or it's kind of how they act like it is in some of the other ones, like or
yeah.
in the Glenn Close movies and in the animated one. They're just they're familiar with each other. They've worked together for a long time, but that's what it is. It's a working relationship, and
Right.
they do bad things for money, but they're
It's very much a reimagining and not
absolutely.
just a remake,
Um,
you
and
know?
that's I said it a second, but Paul Walter Hauser is, or yes, that's right. Yeah, Paul Walter Hauser is fantastic. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's he's just like so weird and awkward in everything he does, and I totally buy his Cockney accent. It's just
Yes,
he's a
yes.
ridiculous person playing a ridiculous character. It's fantastic.
I was so glad to see him in this film. I haven't seen him in too much. I mean, I've seen him in a couple of other things,
Um,
but I thought this
he's
was,
really good in Richard Jewell.
yeah,
He
I've
plays a
heard.
ridiculous. Do you watch Cobra Kai?
No,
Well, you should.
I
Um,
know.
you should also you should endure the Karate Kid trilogy before you watch Cobra Kai. But no, yeah, he's in Cobra Kai season 2. He plays like a 35-year-old man hanging at like who's at the karate dojo with a bunch of teenagers, and it's kind of weird, but it's also kind of adorable, and it's just really funny. Anyway, I really like him.
Yeah, I thought he did fantastic in this film, and knowing that um, he is American. Yeah, I've only ever heard him do American
Yeah,
accents.
he's definitely just
So
an American actor.
yeah, so you know, I don't know how the English would feel about it, but I thought he did a great job on the accent. I thought Emma Stone did a great job doing the accent. I thought she was fabulous. And obviously she had some practice doing The Favorite, right?
Oh yeah,
Where she had Olivia Colman and Rachel Weisz to help her out, right? And on this one, she had Emma Thompson to help her out. So I think it was all good. And she also had, what's his name? Joel Fry to help out too. He was the other, what's his name? Oh my God, the other brother, dude, friend.
yeah. They're Horace and Jasper. I forget which is which
Jasper.
if I'm honest. Yeah, yeah.
Jasper. He played Jasper. And Joel Fry was on Game of Thrones. So
He was.
I recognized him immediately and I was like, this is gonna be good.
One other is it John McCree is the um the stylist guy who works
Yes.
in the
Yeah,
shop.
Artie. John McCree or McCrea. I don't
Yeah, yeah.
I thought,
He's
yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought they did it so well. They added in that like 60s, maybe some of the 70s, uh, punk into it so well. And I actually thought that that was how they ended up making this story and this era very appealing to modern audiences because it is so much about fashion, but also about grunge fashion and street fashion and like pop-up exhibitionist fashion art shows, you know.
right.
Um, so I thought it was really like a modern way to kind of play out this battle, if you will, between Cruella and the Baroness. So I thought that it was like I could have recognized this film if it was set in, you know, like 2000 with some different music, you know, like really the music was what kept reminding me of what era we were in, you
It's
know.
true. I'm glad you brought that up. The music choices are little bit all over the place. I think it in
Oh,
general they work. There's some weird choices and also like some sometimes good appropriate songs, but maybe it's just covers or whatever that
mm.
I'm not fond of. But yeah,
Covers are
he
hard things to get
relies
right.
maybe a little heavily. The director Craig Gillespie relies maybe a little heavily on the song to tell you how you should feel at any time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas it's not like he tries really hard to be like Guardians of the Galaxy vibe, like the
Yeah.
music that doesn't necessarily fit, but it feels right.
That
Um,
is such a
and
good
it's
way to
and
compare it.
it doesn't
Yeah.
always feel quite right. If
Yeah.
that's a if I if that made sense to you.
I think
Um,
that's definitely fair and definitely makes sense to me. There's a lot of music, and I
mhm,
think that they were definitely trying to make it into kind of a soundtrack movie.
right.
They're definitely trying to do something different with this. I don't even want to call it an adaptation because it's literally like a reimagining
It is.
of this character. So they're that in itself just tells me they're trying to do something different. It's the fact that they're also trying to push a soundtrack, like a fresh, like boppy soundtrack,
Right.
Um, that, I think they're trying to,
I mean,
okay,
there's some great classics in there. I'm looking at the list now,
oh
like
yeah.
"Living Thing" by Electric Light Orchestra, Queen, "Stone Cold Crazy" is in there. Um,
So Guardians of the
"Hush" by
Galaxy.
Deep Purple. Um, I don't know. And then there are covers of "Come Together,"
Mhm.
"Sympathy for the Devil's" in there.
Mhm.
Um, there's a "Perhaps" by Doris Day. There are
There's a lot.
a lot of good stuff, and then some other choices that I don't always think fit with exactly what he's trying to say. But
And I think that that might be just a Disney thing too. Because here's the thing. Okay, wasn't I think Lion King was the last big like classics adaptation live action that they came out with, right? Or am I wrong? I don't know.
Mulan,
Oh, well, that was like pandemic, and I didn't even see Mulan.
it's on Disney Plus now.
I
I haven't
know.
watched it either.
I didn't watch it. So, and I think it's because it looked like more of the same.
And I was actually going in. I was excited about that one because if any of them had the potential to be something really special, it was probably that one. And
Right. And
it
so
didn't.
then I was
Apparently,
starting
that's not the case. So it's just
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
So I didn't even see it because that's what I was getting from literally everything I was reading and seeing about it. And so I think that, I mean, obviously they couldn't make too many different changes or, tweaks to Cruella because they already filmed it
Right.
or were editing and, you know, whatever when Mulan wasn't quite a success. But I think that even when they were like doing pre-production on Mulan, they were figuring out that this whole remake thing was becoming too predictable. And I think maybe Disney execs were starting to see a problem with that.
Um, and
So
I like that this is different. I would also say, like, did you see Oz the Great and Powerful?
no, I didn't.
It's fine. Um, it's
Exactly.
but it's a very different take on the wizard and the witches than you might expect based on the Wizard of Oz.
I can believe that. And I think that's also a thing that you can only get from watching it. And a way to bring people in is to change a look, right?
Right.
So Oz the Great and Powerful doesn't look like anything different to me. That's why I haven't seen it.
That's fair.
Cruella, on the other hand, looks entirely different. I mean, it's kind of like a breath of fresh air in a different direction for these Disney remakes, which I think now I will only be able to call reimaginings if they keep down this track. Because it is so different. The energy is different. The vibe is different. The stakes are different.
And I hope that continues for
Yeah,
sure.
me
Yeah, yeah.
too. That's why I was pleasantly surprised at this film. And I'll keep saying it, pleasantly surprised, because
And again, the movie's fine. It's not great, but
not a masterpiece.
they made
Um,
some good choices. They made some weird choices.
mhm.
Um, but all they spent they spent money in the right place. Like I said, that you can't discount the production design and the costume design.
No, you
It's
can't. They spent the
ridiculous.
money where it needed to be.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's
They
because it drives the story,
they got Emma and Emma, which was not cheap.
which is a
And then
great marketing tool as
yeah, yeah.
well.
Um, but
So yeah, I think that because this one felt different, it got me into seeing it, and again, which is ironic because this was the one that I went the most blind into,
Right.
probably in a long time, not just this week, but in a long time.
Did you like the Will Smith Aladdin?
The what?
The Will,
Oh, the Will Smith Aladdin. It was okay.
I liked Will Smith. I really liked Naomi Scott.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's fine. Yeah.
you were just, it
I
was.
think the only one of these that I've really liked is probably the Jungle Book, which I would argue is better than the animated one. Um,
I saw that. I saw that
yeah,
because it had Scarlett Johansson.
it did, and freaking Christopher Walken plays
Yeah,
the king of the monkeys, and he sings a song, and it's incredible.
that's right. But again, those two, okay, so um Aladdin came out after why do I want to say George of the Jungle? It's not George of the Jungle. It's what's the name of it? You just said
The
it.
Jungle
Why am
Book.
I blanking? Jungle Book. Thank you. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's Jungle something. I mean, that just goes to show you how kind of like, I don't have a lot of hopes or expectations for these Disney remakes. Jungle Book came out before the Aladdin
What
remake.
was your? I'm curious. What was your experience with Disney growing up?
It was my life.
Okay,
Absolutely
and
my
that's
life.
yeah, yeah, and that's and I ask again because you're a few years younger than me. And I was, to be fair, a boy, so I watched mainly Disney movies with male protagonists, with small exception. We had Little Mermaid on tape and a couple others, but
No, I totally get it.
yeah,
No
yeah, and
blaming.
that's and I'm
Oh.
and I was just curious, like how you'd react to these movies compared to your experience with like the back catalog and like, and we even had like we had the one whole shelf of the big puffy like Disney VHS, and we had like all the classics too. Like
We
we
still
had
have them. My
yeah,
mom kept them.
nice, yeah, like with Snow White and Dumbo and
Yeah.
Fantasia was one of my favorites when I was little. I loved to just play the music basically. Um,
It just scared me.
um,
I was I was scared very easily. I could not watch Fantasia. I could not watch any of the like 101 Dalmatians, like at all. Not the
um,
Glenn
we
Close
had
one.
we had
No,
101
hate it.
Dalmatians, and then later on we had all the Toy Stories, and we had like basically every Pixar movie except A Bug's Life because even when I was young I didn't like that one. And
It was
then
very much my life. And we actually lived in Florida for about 5 years when I was very young. I would say probably when I was like 5 to 11, I think I'm gonna say. So prime Disney time. And so we would go there and it was like the best days of my life, And even like my sweet 16, my sweet mother chaperoned me and some of my friends down to Orlando. My friends and I went to Disney.
that's legit.
I know. And I actually worked at Disneyland in Anaheim for I want to say most of 2019, 18, 18, 2018. Yeah.
Cool.
So I got to kind of indulge in that as an adult, which was fun. And so I'm very aware
Right.
of the entire like fandom, I
Oh
guess.
yeah.
I don't want to say I'm like a mega fan, but like for I think a lot of people our age, it was a part of their growing up in a very like fundamental way. So I was very excited in the
I'd agree.
beginning
No,
as
yeah,
they
me
were
too.
doing the films that I was really excited to see, like remaking them. They started with Cinderella with Lily James and Richard Madden and Helena Bonham
Oz the Great and Powerful was before that, and I would even say like it probably started with Alice in Wonderland. Um, and I
Yeah, you see, I don't consider them that way though, because they
no,
made such a big push, with the Cinderella movie that like, hey, we're
and
doing
that came out way back. Like
yeah,
I was second year Georgia Southern, probably I want to say 2010s when that one came out, the Alice in Wonderland. But
yeah,
that would be
which is a good
my
movie.
third
I
year in college.
love Mia was how do you
Va,
say
Wasikowska?
yeah. I enjoy her and I like that movie. But the
Do you?
Cinderella remake, live action remake is, in my
I
cinema
have heard
history.
good things about that one, but I have not seen it.
It's wonderful. I think they did a really good job with it. I think it's a great movie. Um, and it made me excited for what else was to come. And so then they did their next like princess remake movie was Beauty and the Beast. And I was excited
I
about
liked it. It was fine.
I mean I
I
love it because it's literally my life. Like
That's fair.
I when I was in high school and college, I worked for a party company in Statesboro and I princessed for them and I was Belle.
Nice.
Like that was my job. We didn't call her that, but it was her.
You gotta pay the Disney money if you use the real names.
Yeah, exactly. So no. But that's what I did and that's always been kind of like my thing. Um, always my favorite and
There was a lot I liked. I love Dan Stevens. And I liked that they gave more context to making the Beast like a really more
like a
so than
person.
yeah, like a person and like a really rich, vain person. Um,
Yeah.
as opposed to just kind of he's just bitter because of what happened to him kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
And so I really liked the casting of it. The cast is so good, including,
what
Cruella.
Ian McKellen plays
Emma Thompson.
Lumiere. Like you can't beat that.
Oh, it's so good. And
Isn't Ewan
I
McGregor is
obviously
Cogsworth? Is that what it was? Is that
yeah,
who?
no,
Yeah,
Cogsworth is Ewan McGregor
Ewan
is
McGregor. Yeah.
Lumiere and Patrick Stewart is Cogsworth. Um
No,
I
oh,
just
it's Ian McKellen. Hold on, I'm looking this up.
Ian McKellen.
He
Yes,
plays
yes, yes,
one
yes,
of
yes.
them, and Ewan McGregor's the other one.
Yes, Ewan McGregor is Lumiere and uh Patrick Stewart. Stewart? No, Ian McKellen.
Yeah, Ian
Ian
McKellen's
McKellen
Cogsworth.
is
Yeah, yeah. But of course he
um
can talk.
I loved it so much. There was so much potential for it. And Luke Evans and Josh Gad are in it
It's
too.
true.
And of course I love Emma
Emma
Watson.
Watson, the other Emma.
We had Emma Watson and Emma Thompson, and we
She,
have Emma Stone
she,
and Emma Thompson. So they had such a good thing going. I know that the Beauty and the Beast film didn't get us as good a reception as
but it made $1 billion.
yeah,
Like,
but
and
it
it's
did really well. And I really liked it. I know that people
Cruella would have made big money if it came out during normal times. Um,
yeah, I think so. But I also think that if the world building and the fantasy of it was heightened in Cruella, it would have been more on that kind of level. I don't think that Cruella, I do not think Cruella can stand up to the same kind of scrutiny as something like Cinderella or Beauty and the Beast
I
remakes.
would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's why it's just kind of like I was pleasantly surprised. Whereas I would have been really excited to, if Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast were coming out now, I would have been like, that's my call.
Apparently, the Russo brothers are developing a Hercules remake, and that excites me. That was a big one for me when I was a kid.
That
Um,
excites me so much. I mean, I was that nerdy kid sitting in my room. I begged my parents to get me this huge mythology textbook of
nice.
like world mythology. So I got
Greek mythology
that.
specifically is a big thing for me, and it's probably
Yeah,
because I loved Hercules so much when I was little.
right, exactly. So I was that kid in my room reading my mythology textbook. And so that's really exciting to me. Like that's how I feel about or how I felt about Beauty and the Beast coming out. Did not feel like that with Cruella, and I think it's because there's just not as much fantasy or world building, so it doesn't feel like Disney,
Right.
which I think is kind of where they've been, not hitting the mark as much recently. But that said, I was pleasantly surprised, and I'm really glad that this film. I don't know if it's because it's been a handful of years now since Beauty and the Beast came out, or because of the pandemic or anything else, but when Beauty and the Beast came out, it was like right at the emergence of the Me Too movement.
Mm-hmm.
And like right, I think before it was either right before or like right at, I think it was before Harvey Weinstein
There's
was
a
like
few months. I think fall 2017 is when all this shit came out with Harvey Weinstein, the
right, yeah.
bastard.
So Beauty and the Beast came out a little bit before that. And when Emma Emma Watson was like, I'm not going to wear a corset for this movie. I'm going to push a really feminist perspective on it. And to be fair, it's not a really feminist perspective, but because it was her and she has a position as a UN women's ambassador and she's very vocal on those subjects and incorporated it into her vision for that character, she got so much smack for it, you know? And unfortunately, even though the film did really well at the box office, people were still giving it smack and trying to knock the film down. And I think a lot of that stemmed from, horrible, horrible prejudice towards women in power. And I was actually just reading the Mary Beard. Mary Beard is a classic scholar from Cambridge. She's very, very well known in that field. Anyway, so Dr. Beard has a book called Women in Power. It's a manifesto, so it's like 2 essays. And I was just reading it last night, which is so prevalent because she was just talking about how, you can try something and then just get knocked down for it, or something will be reused based on, different tropes that have been used since the Roman times, which is her, Dr. Beard's area of expertise. And so I think that's exactly what we saw happen with the Beauty and the Beast movie. I think if it were released today, with the same kind of feminism shown in Cruella,
Right.
it would not have been knocked down by so many people, even though it was so successful in numbers, So I think that, that's kind of a big, dividing point in this whole like Disney remake reimagining thing. I mean, I don't know what you've, been seeing or how you've experienced this resurgence of Disney movies, but that's just what I saw between these two kind of benchmark feminist Disney films.
I mean, I'm probably on your side regarding most of that. It's Disney, they in general they seem to want to that the heart is in the right place. It doesn't always land just right. Like even we've been talking about how we generally like Cruella, but I don't like the explanation for Cruella's mental health as it's given in this movie.
Right.
But
it very much is just,
and it's and also I'm a cisgendered white boy from the suburbs who I've had a relatively easy life compared to a lot of people, so I may not be the best person to talk about some of this stuff, but it's
but it doesn't mean that
if
as an informed person don't have insights, like those are an important part of a fully inclusive conversation.
And that's appreciated. And honestly, I think it's great, and I love watching movies about people that don't look like me, and it's I'm never going to understand the backlash it gets. Like it doesn't make sense to me. And if Disney needs to promote strong women in their movies, and they need to, I'm all about Disney resurgence and being outside of Marvel, which it's all eyes are on all the time. The other presences of Disney being out in public and and saying it's okay to be a woman, but also it's okay to be a woman who's not a princess who needs a prince to solve all her problems.
And I think that this film could have done that so well if it weren't for that fundamental aspect of really honoring the mental health perspective. It could have been so much more. It was felt glossed over. They kind of make excuses for the Baroness with her narcissism, and then even before those plot points are introduced and developed, Cruella goes crazy, and it's just because she's crazy.
No, yeah, and it's introducing her at such a young age, having dyeing her hair black and white and stuff, even when she's very, very young, before she lost her mother, which that's not necessarily a problem, but it's the the fact that she's different is, and nature versus nurture. I'm not a psychologist, but it seemed really convenient when they could have explored something a lot more interesting.
Yeah,
And
no, I
even
agree.
like, especially considering this is a darker movie than I anticipated it being.
It's a very dark movie.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah. It's
surprised.
PG-13, but it's a Disney movie, and it's about a
Yeah,
character that everyone has heard of. Um,
it's dark. I mean, there is murder and like burning alive, like
attempted burning
gorgeous
alive. Yeah,
bow and dog murder and
yeah.
murder.
Just
There's a lot of
murder.
murder in this movie, and I was really surprised. I was like, okay, which I think
But
is
this
I don't mind
Cruella
it.
started to lose it before the Baroness killed her mom. So
Right. Yeah.
something wasn't right, or it's just she's crazy because her birth mother's crazy, and
Right.
that just rubs me wrong. But um,
Yeah. It's not a good explanation. They could have done a lot more with it, and I think that it would have taken their films in a really interesting direction. But at the same time, I'm grateful for those little tidbits because they are different than what they've been doing
yeah, and
before.
I'm not even
And very
necessarily like, I'm
different.
not saying that there's anything necessarily wrong with what's in the movie on this topic, except that there should be more to it than that.
Yes.
That can't be the reason. That can be, you know, it,
Could be a factor.
yes, but it's not.
Yeah.
Who knows? It's just she's just crazy already, and it doesn't. It it seems convenient. It's just easy when it
Yeah.
should have been.
And there's
Like,
no real distinction between like her spunk, her girly spunk that's supposed to be the feminist aspect of her character, with her potential mental illness,
right.
they're one and the
Um,
same. So there just needed, I think, to be a little bit more um depth to those character plots. And that's why, like we were saying earlier, why I feel like the Baroness's character played by Emma Thompson is just off.
Yeah, it's just, and I would agree with that. It's just like her. You can ignore a lot of it because Emma Thompson's delivery is always perfect, but
Yes.
it's there's definitely some problems in the writing. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
any Coming up on 40 minutes? Are your any closing thoughts on Cruella or the past and future of Disney live action movies?
Well, I really wanted to talk about Mark
Mark
Strong.
Strong, yes, yeah, you mentioned that before we started. Okay, let's talk about Mark Strong, and
I well,
I have something to say too.
it leads right into, from what we were just talking about, because the character writing is so weird in this, right? So Mark Strong's in this movie the whole time. And when I saw him, I was like, "Ooh, it's Mark Strong. We're gonna get some really cool stuff out of him." Like he's a sought after dude, and he's such a good actor, and he's recognizable. So I was like, "They're gonna use him.
He's
They're
just
gonna use him."
he's just
And
always a
then he like
smarmy
wasn't
villain type.
being used.
Yeah, yeah, and then he comes out and he's like the good guy butler. Um,
Yeah. So, but it took forever to get there in the story.
like
Otherwise, he's
well
just
over an hour into the
there.
movie.
Yeah, he's just there being another butler dude. you know,
You don't pay
so
for Mark Strong if he's just the butler.
exactly. So I was like, what's he gonna do? And then it took forever to get there. And then he didn't do much after that. He swiped a list here, he talked into somebody's ear there, and then that was like it, you know?
All right,
And so I was really in that. When it was first revealed, and he makes a big reveal to Estella that the Baroness is her mother and the whole backstory, and then things come together. I was like, oh, like this feels so Kingsman because it's still in like the 60s, 70s, and it's more strong, and he's butler, and it's fine. I was like, I'll take it because I enjoy those films. And I was like, I finally got it. And now he's gonna be like, let's sort all this out, you know?
and he
And
was
he's like,
just
here's the
yeah,
information.
he gives her a present, and then he like helps her steal something, and then it's just
And he's
all
like,
right. I
okay,
I'm gonna don't take. How do I want to say this? I'm generally not a big fan of Mark Strong. He plays
that's
the
fine.
same character and everything.
No, I totally agree
he's
with you.
always a smarmy villain type.
But I
I
know.
appreciated that he was not. just a smarmy villain type in this movie. We
Yeah.
probably I probably agree that we needed more of him, but
Hmm.
he I appreciated that he played against type, which he rarely ever does. Um, and he's just
Yeah.
like he was the gangster guy in Kick Ass, which is probably like the earliest notable thing that I know him from. And he's played basically the same character that he played in Kick Ass in every movie since Kick Ass. Like,
I fear that that's probably
and then
not
in
his doing.
Shazam, he was the same guy except he could do magic. Like it was just
Right. Yeah. I think he
yeah.
probably got really typecast. Um, have you seen the Kingsman movies with
I've seen
him?
the first one.
Okay, I know that there's a second one. He's also in that, and he's very, very good in that too. But I kind of felt like I mean, Kingsman takes place like modern times, but it
Right.
feels kind of like 60s, a little vintage because of the characterization of the agents, right?
Mhm.
So I kind of felt like you could have plucked Mark Strong out of Kingsman and then put him into Cruella, and it still would have worked.
That's fair.
It's the same kind of thing.
Right.
So I was like, I see where this is going. And so I was trying to figure out what was going to happen. I was like, well, somebody's going to be revealed to be her parent. And because she didn't have a father,
And my wife and I both thought he was going to be her dad, and that's not
yes,
true. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. So he starts revealing, and I'm like, oh, that's her dad. And he's like, just kidding. I'm a random dude, but I'm gonna help you.
I
And I
just
was
work for
like,
your mom, but I know your mom's a terrible person, so I'm going to help. Um,
yeah. So I was just
yeah,
kind of like, I thought they could have used him in character a lot better. I don't mind that he wasn't her dad. I think it's interesting that, her dad just kind of like wasted away in grief, the Baron, and the Baroness is the Baroness. Um, but I think Mark Strong could have been like I don't know if you watched Downton Abbey, but they just put it all
oh yeah,
back on Netflix. So I watched it all when it was airing, and now it just got put on Netflix again. So anyway, I felt like Mark Strong's character in Cruella could have been
like a
a
butler from Downton.
like a Carson type,
Yeah,
very
um,
fatherly and nurturely.
and I appreciate it. Like this, I always like when actors are cast against type.
Mhm.
Especially like this, I when I saw him, I was like, oh, he's going to be like the smarmy villain guy that like who knows, but
Yeah. I just felt, I I enjoy him as an actor. I really thought that he got the short end of whatever story edits they did,
oh yeah.
because I
And
feel like
maybe they shot more. If the movie's already long, so who knows what got cut out of this. But
that's
um,
exactly what I was thinking. I think they probably cut out his stuff that was a little more interesting
right,
towards the end, especially in trying to manipulate the Baroness. Um, so I feel bad that he probably didn't get his his due as an actor in this film, but nonetheless, I'm glad he's there. I
that's
think
fair.
he adds something into it towards the end, or I guess just the middle, but it's not enough to really justify getting somebody like Mark Strong.
When you can afford it, why not, right? Um, who maybe who knows? There's a lot of reasons that happens. Maybe he wasn't available for very long, so they
Mhm.
gave him what they could. Maybe he was cut out of the movie. Maybe we got everything that was supposed to be there. Who knows? But
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, I again, he's just generally not that interesting a character in my opinion, and he's always typecast. So it's then again, it's all the the key word in getting typecast is that you're getting cast. So that's always
That's good.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. We both kind of liked it. Lots lot good some good stuff, some bad stuff. It's technically very impressive, which is um
Like,
has been a consistent thing in most of these live action movies. To be fair,
yeah. Here's my thing.
yeah, go
Here's my final overview
wrap it up.
or feelings. If I was going to go visit my young niece and nephew this summer, which I'm hoping to do, I would love to be able to go see this with them, and I would go see it again. But I
But
think that this movie might be a little too murdery for young kids. So Would I see it again with like kids? Yes, but should I? I don't know.
That's fair. And, and I know some people with kids who like the Pirates movies. Um, and I would
That's
say
fair.
that's probably more intense than this was. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Here's the thing.
um,
I'm not around kids enough to know
I'm really not
exactly
either.
what they're, you know, capable of handling. Um, but because there's so much. I've been doing a lot of thinking about media literacy lately for
Right.
a different project. And so I was thinking about how kids are, you know, inundated with so many increasingly adult things like knowledge and jokes, like the
How do you
hotel
navigate
the
that as a
Hotel
parent?
Transylvania trailer played before the movie last night, and there was a whole joke about like a invisible monster becoming human, and there was like a whole thing about his like butt cheeks clapping together. Yeah, it
Awesome.
was a whole joke, and it like showed like part of the butt, and I was like, it's animated, but I'm like, still. And
Hmm.
then there's a whole joke about like them being naked and having to cover up, and I'm like, this is for kids. Like I
Yeah,
understand for
kids think
adults,
nakedness is funny.
yeah.
Who knows?
So I don't know, but Cruella might be a little too murdery.
That's the verdict from Katie and Brandon is it's a little too murdery. Well, that's a good note to wrap up on. Thanks for hanging out, Katie. This is Katie has a blog at catherineburrell.com. And I do movie reviews and I take photos and stuff at Agent 25 Production. I'm on YouTube and Facebook and stuff. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day.